Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your kind presence and association as we continue associating with Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 2, verses 15 to 21, the Lord in the Heart. Om Jnanatime Vandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapada Kamalam Shri Kurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Bhagana Raghunatham Vitantam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padams Bhagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Pastatya Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Piyusha Sarva Vedeka Satpala Sarva Siddhantaratnadya Sarva Lokai Triprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidvando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivarchita Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transfer food of all the Vedas, O you are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are a sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Premavashasharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Krishnaya Namaskate. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you want to attain strength and endless bliss, for your soul was rain pure love poured upon the Veda. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka Bandhu Mad Sangim Mad Guru Mad Mahadana Mad Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Mad Anandan Namaskate. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, offer respectful obeisance unto you. Sadhu sadhu tadahi attini chochataraka hanamun chakada chinmam premnarat kateospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the very fallen, please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest, my heart and my throat, accompanying pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janma Jasya Yuthon Vayaritarata Charte Swabhigna Swarat Tene Brahma Hidayadi Kavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatrati Sargom Risha Damna Swena Sada Nirastakwakam Satyam Param Dhimaihi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of a Spirit, all pervading personality of Godhead, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destructions of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him did the material universe temporarily manifest. By the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, because he is eternally existent in the transcendental world, which is free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Pranalpaisha Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Jana Amanda Sumanda Mutayomanda Bhagyupadrita, old and one in this age of Kalimena, but short lies, the quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayana Namaskritya Narachevam Narantam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jay Mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance to the personality of God at Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasa, the author. Savai Pumsa Parodharmo Yato Bhaktira Dok Chaje Ahoitaka Pratyata Yatma Suprisidati. The supreme occupation dharma of all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya Chusavai Ragyam Jnanam Chayat Ahitukam. By rendering of devotional service unto the personality of God at Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires positive knowledge and detachment from the world. Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yat gnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma Bhagavan. Shrushushosadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsavaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. O twice upon sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the message of Vasudeva. Shranutam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Riddhantastoya Bhadrani Vidunati Spritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, superspin in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nastaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. By regular attendance in a class in the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Bhyam Swadharmam Parinishtaya Janmalabha Paraputsam Antenarayana Smriti. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna and welcome again. Let us cover some feedback from last week's session, chapter 2, verses 8 to 14. Please type in the chat and we will cover some feedback, and I'll also cover some power statements that I have. So, Amavati Radhika says, the most beautiful person is the Supreme Personality of Godhead among all others. His mouth expresses his happiness. So splendid to hear about Krishna's exquisite beauty. Thanks to the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have the Acharya Vigraha from the Lord. We should take darshan from the lotus feet up and can worship the Lord of the flowers, the truth. Yes. Now, the section that we are covering is Sukadeva Goswami is describing the process for the Astanga Yogi, those who resonate with the Lord in the heart. And even the Lord in the heart is beautiful. The Lord in the heart has beautiful features, and the Lord in the heart, that feature of the Lord in the heart is imbued with awe and reverence, with sweetness. Krishna, who is Shamsundar in Vrindavan, the supreme absolute truth, he is also supremely beautiful. And Krishna in Vrindavan is the epitome of sweetness without awe and reverence. So, therefore, the super soul is beautiful, supremely sweet. At the same time, if one goes now higher to Krishna in Dwarka, then Krishna becomes more sweet and more beautiful. And then you go to Vrindavan, Krishna is most sweet and most beautiful. Three levels of perfection, three levels of sweetness. In the spiritual world, you get perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. Everything is perfect. But according to one's relationship, one can access higher dimensions of sweetness. So here we are attracted to Krishna, who has appeared. And for devotees, for the Gaudiya Vaishnava devotees, our goal is Krishna in Vrindavan, Srimati Radhavani in Vrindavan. At the same time, in the Bhagavatam, we are being exposed to Krishna in his different features, and we appreciate that. Why? We don't say, oh yeah, we're not interested in the super soul. No, that is Krishna, who's mercifully appeared to attract those souls that resonate with that facet, feature of this. So we don't discard any aspect which Krishna himself, out of his mercy and kindness, has introduced into this world to attract souls. Even though we may not be adopting that path completely. And then another aspect which you mentioned is the Achavigra form. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he is installed Achavigras, deities all over the world. And we have the opportunity to see God here and now. People say, show me God. Well, you're not qualified to see God. First qualify, first deserve, then desire. Very often we desire without deserving. I want this. Okay, good, you want that. Are you qualified? So first qualify, then desire. So we cannot see God directly. Why? Well, you need spiritual eyes. You need pure devotion, without which you will not be able to see Krishna. Krishna is completely spiritual. And because Krishna is completely spiritual, you need to be spiritual and you need to be devotional to see Krishna. But Krishna knows that I'm not there. I'm far from there. Okay, so I'm far from there. How do I still see him? Krishna says, no problem. I will appear as the Achavigra. So Krishna has appeared. So if we want to see God Nitai, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, they are available. They are there. Shri Nitai Gauri Mandir. We can see them every day. We can serve them. They are not different from Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. Which means that we don't need to go back to God there to see God. He's right there in front of us, available. And according to one's faith and service, Krishna will purify and Krishna will reveal. So we have to appreciate and take advantage of the opportunity that Srila Prabhupada has created. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, those verses had detailed description of the Lord's form. Yes. This is one reason why we are attracted and convinced when we were searching for answers and found all this information in Srila Prabhupada's books. Very true. We were discussing with Bhakti Nishinga Maharaj the same principle this morning, that we find in all other traditions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, they talk about God. Talk about Supreme Father is there, Allah, the Great One. But where's the detail of the description of the Supreme Lord? And it's amazing how people, and I guess it's, I can say it's related also to us. We were also, no, let me put it this way. I was also in the same boat where I was told, okay, there's God, and then you stop. Nobody starts to question, or very few start to question, and I didn't question, okay, can I get more details of God? What does he do? What are his activities? Where does he stay? What does his place look like? Who is he with? The details of all the aspects related to the Supreme Lord, very few begin to inquire. And out of those few that begin to inquire, very few get answers until and unless they're exposed to Srila Prabhupada's books. And Srila Prabhupada, in his Bhaktivedanta purports, he stimulates questioning. He triggers the neurons to start thinking. Prabhupada would ask, sometimes in his purports, he would ask the question, like in one lecture, Prabhupada says, okay, Allah is great. How great? See, they say Allah is great, but then what about the next question? Go to the next question. What's the next question? How great? Now, when you ask that question, how great, get stumped. And then Prabhupada goes and answers that question. How great? Allah is so great that from his pores, universes, millions of universes are coming out as he's breathing out. And as he breathes in, millions of universes are destroyed. And this way, God, Allah is creating. Wow. And that's just a fraction of Allah's glories. So, Prabhupada's books, they give us the information that people are searching for. And we find by the mercy of the Goswamis, we have so much detail of Krishna. It's unreal, inconceivable. To the degree that the information is there. If somebody had to just look at this information, they would think it's speculation. But even somebody who's writing fiction books, for them to even speculate to this degree is very difficult. And we know that the way this system of parampara is, of authentic disciplic succession, that this knowledge is coming down, and we know that it is authentic. And the beauty of Krishna consciousness is you don't just need to believe. By applying the process of bhakti yoga, you can verify this information through revelation. Krishna's name, address, family, dressing, likes, dislikes, etc., all described, unable to find this anywhere else. Yes. Prabhupada said even his email address we can give. Was happy to find all this information in the vastness of creation, like looking for a needle in a haystack, which may be easier to find than finding Krishna after so many lifetimes, thanks to Srila Prabhupada. Very true. Yes. It is not, we should never underestimate our good fortune to have access to this knowledge. And we don't want to die not going through it. That would be even disastrous. That we have the treasure chest, the most valuable treasure chest in our hand, and we never opened it. Why? I was too busy. I was caught up. Yeah, I know there's gold in there, but I'll open it later. I'm very busy right now. We don't want to be in that boat. Naturally, there's no loss or diminution, but that would be a great loss. That we have all this information and we just didn't go through it. For whatever reason, we did not go through it. Because if we miss the opportunity, we will not know. We don't know what the future holds. Yes, by Krishna's mercy, we'll be on the path. But if we have attachments, and those attachments take us to another route, well, then we may be wasting time. Mother Sharina says, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisance and appreciation. I'd like to point out that we will always be eternally linked to Srila Prabhupada and service in his mission. Only through Srila Prabhupada can we come to learn about Krishna. We have no qualification to do this on ourselves. Yes. Now, it is not that there are no other acharyas, teachers, lineages, that people can get access to Krishna. There are. But for us, Srila Prabhupada is that link. Srila Prabhupada is that connection. It is not by chance that we have been affiliated and connected to Srila Prabhupada. These things, there's no chance. These things don't happen by chance. So, because we are connected to Srila Prabhupada, because we have connected ourselves to Srila Prabhupada, now, instead of contemplating, are there others? Can they give me more? What can they do? No, you are connected. Now amplify that connection, solidify that connection by associating with Srila Prabhupada through his books, by following his instructions, by serving his mission. In this way, we establish a deeper and deeper connection and relation with Srila Prabhupada. And the rest, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, starts to unfold. We strengthen the relationship and the rest unfolds. Like Srila Prabhupada was telling P.L. Sethi. In fact, Prabhupada called P.L. Sethi, who was serving in Jew, Hare Krishna land, and they had built a beautiful house for Srila Prabhupada, a beautiful room for Srila Prabhupada, furnished nicely. And when P.L. Sethi came to see Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada asked P.L. Sethi, did you see my room? Is it fitted nicely? And P.L. Sethi said, yes, Swamiji, very nice. They've fitted very nice furniture and fittings, very nice done, nicely done. And Prabhupada said, so I'm a sannyasi, I travel over the world, I don't need a room. You can have my room. So Prabhupada was ready to give his room to P.L. Sethi. And Prabhupada told P.L. Sethi, because you are building, because he helped build Juhu, the different rooms, etc. Because you are building the rooms for the devotees and for Krishna, Krishna is building for you. And P.L. Sethi, he was saying, but Prabhupada, I'm a fallen soul. How can I go back to Godhead? And P.L. Sethi, Prabhupada said that your service, your business is to render service. And my business is to take you back to Godhead. So you don't do my business. You do your business and you leave my business to me. So in this way, we do our business. According to Prabhupada's instructions, that is our business. Let us focus, let us dedicate, let us commit to our business. And let Prabhupada deal with the back end, the returning back to Godhead. That Prabhupada will do. And he's fully capable. He's fully capable. So in this way, yes, our allegiance, our surrender, our dedication, our commitment should be intensified more and more and more with Srila Prabhupada. Nalini Kanta Prabhu says, ornaments or flowers, clothing, decoration of the Lord is all spiritual. Yes. as we're going to read also again. Prabhupada says, the ornaments, flowers, clothing, and all other decorations on the transcendental body of the personality of God are identical with the body of the Lord. None of them are made of material ingredients. Otherwise, there would be no chance of their decorating the body of the Lord. As such, in the para, vyoma, spiritual varieties are also distinguished from material variegatedness. So there is matter and spirit. There is material variegated and spiritual variegatedness. There's the material world and the spiritual world. Matter and spirit is not compatible. Therefore, you will not find Krishna with anything material. Krishna does not come in contact. Krishna does not embrace. Krishna has nothing to do with matter. Absolutely nothing to do with matter. Now, what's astounding is Krishna is the source of matter. Krishna is the source of the material energy. Yet Krishna has nothing to do with matter. How is that? Then someone may say, but how is Krishna creating? If Krishna has nothing to do with matter, how is Krishna creating? If Krishna has nothing to do with matter, then how is Krishna appearing in this world? Anyone can share in the chat. Krishna has nothing to do with matter. How does he create? Because that means he has to come in contact with material energy to create. Is Krishna not creating? So who can share in the chat? Krishna has nothing to do with matter. None of Krishna's ornaments are material. Krishna never ever contacts the material energy. Well, then when he comes here, where is he? And how does he create? Fana Prabhu says the Mahatattva. So Mahatattva is the raw ingredients. How is the raw ingredients creating if Krishna is not creating? And scripture says, no, Krishna never contacts material energy. So if Krishna never contacts material energy, Krishna is completely separate. He's only in contact with the internal energy. Then how is he creating? He deputes others to create, maintain, destroy material side. Yes. So it's interesting that Krishna never comes in contact with the material energy, but on another sense, another level, he does. How? Well, Krishna expands, very good, Shilrak Sai Vishnu, through Garbhadak Sai Vishnu, all Krishna's energy. So Krishna expands Balaram, Balaram expands Chaturvuya, Sankarshan then expands another Chaturvuya. Then Mahasankarshan expands as the three Purusha avatars. Then we got Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva, he comes in contact with material energy. The Vishnu avatars, Mahavishnu, he impregnates Durga. And who is Krishna? Who is Mahavishnu? Who is Lord Shiva? These are all expansions of Krishna. So we could say Krishna creates and does not create. Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. Inconceivable, one and different. He creates through his energies, and he does not create because he himself, Sham Sundar Krishna, never comes in contact with material energy. Can anyone share another example from Srila Prabhupada's perspective, where Srila Prabhupada gives another analogy or point to prove that Krishna never creates? You can also unmute if you want to share, just audibly. Another example of where Prabhupada gives in relation to Krishna, that Krishna has nothing to do. Krishna does not create. Krishna does not destroy. He has nothing to do. Another example. Compared to all the other demigods. Amavati Radhika's milk and yogurt, Lord Shiva and Krishna. Yes, so that's in understanding Lord Shiva's position. So the example that I'm looking for, that Prabhupada says, is if you look at the different demigods, what do they have in their hand? Look at every single demigod, from top to bottom. What do they have in their hand? Or hands? They have many, many weapons. Yeah, they have different weapons and different paraphernalia, indicating that they got work to do. They're working. And if you see here, what does Krishna have in his hand? No weapon. This picture, Krishna's got yogurt in his hand. Krishna has a flute in his hand. So he is enjoying. See, flute, music, and food, entertainment. So Krishna is entertained by food and music. That's all. That means he's the enjoyer. Very clear. Even when Prabhupada gives the example also when one person from the West, he wanted to find God. So they said, well, go to the East, you'll see God. So many temples are there. So he went, came to India, went to all the different temples, and he came to the conclusion, after visiting all the temples, I've come to the conclusion of who God is. And India has thousands and thousands, just 5,000, over 5,000 temples is in Vrindavan. So what talk about practically whole of India? So many temples. And one can get confused with all these temples. But he was intelligent. He said, I've traveled far and wide to every temple and I've come to the conclusion who is God. Who? Krishna. Why? Because he's the only one that does not have anything in his hand besides a flute. Everyone else has some weapon, something to protect, something to create, something to destroy. But Krishna has got a flute. And if somebody is supreme, then it means they're enjoying. Because that's the definition. The supreme enjoyer. So Krishna fits in that category. Then Prabhupada says, it is suggested herein that a meditative devotee should try to concentrate on the described form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed upon him. His smiling benedictions on the devotee are said to be extensive. What to speak of his transcendental pastimes. To the neophyte, the great acharyas offer the same advantage by installing deities in the temples. The neophytes can then come to the temples and directly concentrate upon the Lord by looking at his deity form, Archamurti. This form of the Lord is equivalent to that described here by Srila Sukadev Goswami, who factually realized the Lord after hearing directly from his great father, Srila Vyasadeva. Temple worship is not idol worship, as it is misconceived by the less intelligent, because the deity is not a product of iconography. The deity in the temple is authentic because he is installed not according to imagination, but following the instructions of the revealed scriptures. And the revealed scriptures come from Krishna. Therefore, by following the revealed scriptures, you will always be aligned to the truth. Everything else that is subjective, that is speculation, that is concocted, that is theorized, that is inferred, but not based on scripture, can be defeated or is temporary. But that which is based on scripture scripture that is coming in disciplic succession, that is not tainted, that is not changed, coming from the supreme perfect source, is always perfect. And in relation to this, we want to also become convinced that by following what Srila Prabhupada is giving us in his purports, because of the system that it's coming to us, system that is used in terms of how it's coming to us, we have firm faith that this is the truth. And therefore, we put our faith, not just blindly, but with validation in the process that Srila Prabhupada is describing. So now we're going to go to 15 to 21, the practice and process of leaving for an advanced yogi. So again, here we see Sukadeva Goswami is going to describe a process, not for everyone. It is not for everyone, but it is for those who are eligible. And again, this is very key to appreciate that there are many processes described in the Vedas. There are many processes given by the Lord in this world. You know, processes that are so variegated, all forms of processes. And then you get people who take these processes and they may then even manipulate and change and create even further processes. Just like the process that we're going to be discussing now is dealing with the Satchakra Yoga system, dealing with your chakras. And if you go on the internet, you can search and you'll find so many variegated forms of chakra processes, all connected to the main process that the Lord has already given. And these different processes are there to attract different souls, to then elevate them higher and higher and perfect their life. The beauty of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna conscious, that it includes the destination of every single process. And the process of Krishna consciousness has been simplified to such an extent that it's ideal for the residents of Kali Yuga. 15. Stiram sukham chasanam astito yatir yada jiharsu imam mangalokam kalecha desha chamanona sajayat pranan niyachen manasajitasu. O king, whenever the yogis desire to leave this planet of human beings, he should not be perplexed about the proper time or place, but should comfortably sit without being disturbed, and regulating the life air should control the senses by the mind. So now we're going to start hearing the details of the process for an advanced yogi to leave this world. We must note, you cannot cut corners. You cannot bribe your way back to Godhead. You cannot skip stages. It is very scientific, and you need to go through the process. Someone can say, guess what? I've got the shortcut method. You can skip this. You don't need this. You don't need this. You don't need to do this. You don't need to just do this and pay me and you'll be able to go back. No, doesn't work. Does not work. And we're going to hear the detailed description that is given. So if you see here in this verse, firstly, he should not be perplexed about proper time, place. He should be comfortably seated without being disturbed. So if he has not already trained to not be disturbed, he will not be able to go further. He will need to be dhirastatra. He'll need to be sober and focused without being disturbed. Then he needs to know how to regulate his life affairs. He needs to know how to control his senses. So there are prerequisites for the yogi to get to the stage, which means that a neophyte yogi will be disturbed. The neophyte yogi will not know how to regulate his life affairs. The neophyte yogi will not be able to control his senses. So therefore, that neophyte yogi will be busy with those aspects. Once he has advanced, now he's able to come to this stage. Up in the purport says, and remember, Prabhupada is going to shed light on the process, but at the same time make it relevant to us. How is this relevant to us? How is this verse relevant to us? Let's just read the verse again, and then let's see how Prabhupada makes this verse relevant to us. O King, whenever the yogi desires to leave this planet of human beings, he should not be perplexed about the proper time or place, but should comfortably sit without being disturbed, and regulating life airs, should control the senses by the mind. So if we just had to look about, is it practical to me? Well, do I need to desire to leave this planet of human beings? Do I need to be concerned about proper time and place? What about my posture? Do I need to be can I be disturbed? Do I need to deal with my life as? And what about controlling the senses? These are all relevant and practical even for us. In Bhagavad Gita 8:14, it is clearly stated that a person who is totally engaged in the transcendent loving service of the Lord and who constantly remembers him at every step easily obtains the mercy of the Lord by entering into his personal contact. So for a devotee, it is easy. But what does it mean to be a devotee? We use this word, oh, I'm a devotee, I'm a Hare Krishna devotee, but devotee is very elevated position. Yes, we are aspiring devotees. Because what does a devotee mean? It is clearly stated that the person who is totally engaged in transcendent loving service of the Lord, who is constantly remembering at every step, not just 2 hours a day, easily obtains the mercy of the Lord by entering into his personal contact. That's a devotee. So we are striving to come to this level. Such devotees do not need to seek an opportune moment to leave the present body. So when we come to this level, then we don't need to worry about time, place, circumstance, because we're already in contact with Krishna 24 hours a day. And if we contact with Krishna 24 hours a day, that means anytime we leave, we perfect our life. That's the point. But those who are mixed devotees, alloyed with fruit of actions or empiric philosophical speculation, require an opportune moment for quitting this body. So what's described is Yoga Mishra Bhakti, devotion mixed with yoga. For them, the opportune moments are stated in Bhagavad Gita 8:23-26, but these opportune moments are not as important as one's being a successful yogi who is able to quit his body as he likes. Such a yogi must be competent to control his senses by the mind. The mind is easily conquered simply by engaging it at the lotus feet of the Lord. In relation to mind control, no problem. What do? It's not about breathing. Breathe in, breathe out, focus here, focus there. No. It's about engaging the mind at the lotus feet of Krishna. Breathing can help reduce the anxiety related to the mind, but it cannot control the mind. The mind needs suitable engagement. And the best engagement for the mind is at the lotus feet of Krishna. Gradually, by such service, all the senses become automatically engaged in the service of the Lord. That is the way of merging into the absolute truth. If you just take the statement, that is the way of merging into the absolute truth, somebody will say, oh, this is Mayavad. This is impersonalism. What is Prabhupada preaching here? See, if you put that statement on Facebook and say Prabhupada says this, see, Prabhupada talks about merging. And if you leave out the context, you're going to get the wrong point. So that's why you cannot take Prabhupada's points out of context. Yes, we are also interested in merging with God. See, when you find someone, when you meet somebody on the street or you meet somebody and they say, oh no, goal of life is to merge with God. You should not say, no, you're in Maya, you're in Mayavadi, that's impersonal. No. You must say, yeah, that's right. In fact, that's also our goal. See, yeah, Prabhupada says here, that's also our goal. That is the way of merging into the absolute truth. Oh, what is your way? Our way is, mine is easily conquered simply by engaging in lotus feet of the Lord. Gradually, by such service, all the senses become automatically engaged in the service of the Lord. That's how you merge with the absolute. We merge through service. And when all the senses are engaged in serving the Supreme Lord, the eyes are seeing the Supreme Lord, the hands are serving, bathing the Supreme Lord, the tongue is glorifying the Lord, the tongue is tasting Krishna Prasad, the legs are going to the temple of the Lord. In this way, all the senses are engaged. The nose is engaged in smelling the flower offered to the Lord. That means we are merged with Supreme, absolute truth. 16. Mana swabuddhya malaya niyam yam Shitragna etam niyat yet tam atmani atmanam atmanya varudyadiro labo pashantir virametakrityat. Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, a fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that he ceases from all other activities. So here we are hearing a process of unwinding. Creation expands in different layers. And if we want to go back to Godhead, we need to unwind and reverse the process. Srila Prabhupada talks about this even in relation to devotees of the Lord. We also understand creation, and then we reverse creation through the process of sound. Here we'll see that the yogi, he uses the life as and controls the life as, and he's also reversing the process. The function of the mind are thinking, feeling, and willing. When the mind is materialistic or absorbed in material contact, it acts for material advancement of knowledge, destructively ending in discovery of nuclear weapons. So the mind, and the purpose of the mind, or the focus of the mind, is thinking, feeling, and willing. That thinking, feeling, and willing can be directed materially, and that thinking, feeling, and willing can also be directed spiritually. The function of the mind cannot stop. It just needs the proper engagement. But when the mind acts under the spiritual urge, it acts wonderfully for going back home, back to God, for life in complete bliss and eternity. Therefore, the mind has to be manipulated by good and unalloyed intelligence. Perfect intelligence is to render service unto the Lord. So the mind's business is thinking, feeling, and willing. The intelligence business is discrimination between what's good and what's bad. The powerful intelligence, the perfect intelligence, is to render service unto the Lord. So, in any situation when you engage the intelligence in what to do or what not to do, if what you select is related to Krishna and devotional service, then that means the intelligence is rightly situated. The decision of the intelligence is perfect. Anything that takes you away from devotional service, from Krishna consciousness, that is misuse of intelligence. Like you can go on the internet and you have free will to use the internet whichever way you choose. You can use it to help yourself or destroy yourself. You can use it to empower yourself or disempower yourself. You can use it to engage in devotional service or destroy your devotional service according to your intelligence. So we always want to make sure that the intelligence is being active and engaged to control the mind in how to think, feel, and work. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives the example of the chariot. When the mind, which is the reins, which is connected to the horses, and the driver is the intelligence who is holding the reins. When the driver does not use the reins properly or does not engage the reins properly, the horses can go haywire and the chariot can be destroyed. So the intelligence must be properly situated so that it can control the mind, direct the mind in the right way to think, feel, and world in relation to Krishna. And in this way, we can go back to Godhead. So the mind does thinking, feeling, and willing. The intelligence does the discrimination. What does the soul do? Please let us know in the chat. What does the soul do? Does the soul do anything? The soul is conscious. Conscious, that's aware. It's supposed to control the mind. So the soul is conscious, but what does it do? It's supposed to control the mind. So the mind is controlled by the intelligence, not the soul. So senses are controlled by the mind controls. Senses are controlled by the mind is controlled by the intelligence. So what does the soul do? Engage in Krishna consciousness? No, because the willing is action, the willing is doing, right? That is the mind that is doing it. So the mind is willing to engage, and therefore it uses the senses to engage. So the senses are engaged in Krishna service, not the soul. So we're going to go back to Bhagavad Gita. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? What does the soul do? And that is the only thing the soul can do. Starts with a D. One word. Yes, desire. That's all. That's all the soul can do in the conditioned state, is desire. Nothing more, nothing less. You can only desire. You are so covered, you can only desire. See, the thinking, feeling, and willing should be supposed to be done by you, right? You should be thinking, you should be feeling, you should be engaging in Krishna service. But right now you can't do that because you have all this layer of baggage. All you can do is desire. When you desire, then the intelligence will direct the decision making, the discrimination related to your desire, either materially or spiritually, and thus engage or direct the mind according to your desire. Now, the mind also can be conditioned and habituated to ignore the intelligence power of discrimination. The intelligence can be corrupt due to bad association. So therefore you have this tug of war. You're desiring, but the intelligence and mind is doing other things. Your senses are doing other things. Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, why is it that you want to, but you engage in activities that you don't like? And Krishna says, it is lust only, the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. So, by engaging the mind, the senses, the mind, intelligence in Krishna's service, they get purified. Your desires to engage in Krishna's service become intensified. And as you continue like this and perfect your life, when you now perfect your life and go back to the spiritual world, at that point, at that time, you are now thinking, you are now feeling, and you are engaged in Krishna's service. In fact, you are desiring, you are thinking, you are feeling, and you are engaging in Krishna's service as the soul. Nothing in between, no layers. It is only you that are engaging in loving Krishna, serving Krishna. You are in love with Krishna. It's not your intelligence that is in love with Krishna. It's not your mind that's in love with Krishna. No, you are in love with Krishna. So in the material world, unfortunately, we have these different coverings that we need to deal with. So the soul needs to strengthen desire. Therefore, Prabhupada says, we fell due to desire, we can return due to desire. Just change desire. And how do you change desire? By good association. Therefore, the mind has to be manipulated by good and unalloyed intelligence. Perfect intelligence to render service unto the Lord. One should be intelligent enough to understand that the living being is, in all circumstances, a servant of all circumstances. So in all circumstances, you are a servant of all circumstances. In the material world, nobody is a master. It looks like they are spin masters. It looks like they are enjoying, but actually they are subservient to the material energy. Every living being is serving the dictates of desire, anger, lust, illusion, insanity, and enviousness, all materially affected. But even while executing such dictations of different temperaments, he is perpetually unhappy. So materially, no one can be happy, truly satisfied and happy. They may present a show. Oh yeah, just see, I'm very happy. And you can only present a show for a short while before the true colors come out. Just like, if you sweep some dirt and you put it under the carpet, you don't notice the dirt. It's under the carpet. Then you take more dirt and you put it under the carpet. And you take more dirt and you put it under the carpet. And more dirt under the carpet. And more dirt under the carpet. Eventually, you'll see that there's a hump. Hold on. Why is there a hump here? What's under the carpet? It starts to show. So you cannot fake it. They say, fake it until you make it. Well, it doesn't work in Krishna consciousness. Because you cannot fake it. Yes, you can follow a process and try to engage in the process as best as you can. And as you're following the process, you will get more and more purified. But you cannot fake it back to the spiritual world. It is very stringent. Similarly, you cannot fake that I'm happy. Material nature will reveal very clearly that you are not happy. When one actually feels this and turns his intelligence to inquiring about it from the right sources, he gets information of the transcendent loving service of the Lord. Instead of serving materially for the above mentioned different humors of the body, the living entity's intelligence then becomes freed from the unhappy illusion of materialistic temperament, and thus by unalloyed intelligence, the mind is brought into the service of the Lord. The Lord and his service are identical, being on the absolute plane. Therefore, the unalloyed intelligence and mind are merged into the Lord, and thus the living entity does not remain a seer himself, but becomes seen by the Lord transcendentally. So this is the process. When we understand we are suffering, we want to find a solution, we need the right source. And in today's world, we are most fortunate we have the right source, Prabhupada's books. Once we get the right source, we get the right information. What's the right information? Transcendental loving service to the Lord. That is the solution. Nothing more, nothing less. It is transcendental loving service of the Lord. Once we now direct the intelligence and the mind in this way, we now will be seen by the Supreme Lord. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj says, do not try to see God, but act in such a way that Krishna wants to see you. So this is how Krishna becomes interested in you. You become visible through the potency and power of devotional service. Therefore, the unalloyed intelligence and mind are merged into the Lord, and thus the living does not remain a seer himself, but becomes seen by the Lord transcendently. Now you are noticed. So if we want to be noticed by Krishna, we should be focusing our mind, our intelligence, our senses more and more in Krishna's service. If you're doing service, intensify it. Increase it. Increase the purity of that service. When the living entity is directly seen by the Lord dictates to him to act according to his desire. And when the living entity follows him perfectly, the living entity ceases to discharge any other duty for his illusory satisfaction. So now he doesn't become entangled. In his pure unalloyed state, the living entity attains a state of full bliss, labdo pashanti, and ceases all material hankerings. So all desires are not destroyed. He doesn't have any pullings, any urges, any wants, any needs related to material energy. He becomes liberated, he becomes free. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says these are these regulative principles, they are regular principles of freedom. They give you true freedom. Yes, it is difficult and binding, looks like binding in the beginning, but it's actually destined for liberation. 17. Nayatra kalo nimisham para prabhu kuto nudeva jagatam ya ishire nayatra sattvam narajastamas cha navai vikaro namahan pradhanam. In that transcendental state of labdo pashanti, there is no supremacy of devastating time, which controls even the celestial demigods who are empowered to rule over mundane creatures, and what to speak of the demigods themselves. Nor is there the mode of material goodness, nor passion, nor ignorance, nor even the false ego, nor the material causal ocean, nor material nature. So this is the secret. How to overcome all suffering. This is the process. This is the solution. Devastating time, which controls even the celestial demigods by its manifestation of past, present, and future, does not act on transcendental plane. Krishna says, time I am the destroyer of everything. So as long as we are controlled by time, we're going to experience the destructive nature of time. And the destructive nature of time is not congruent to our nature. Our nature is Sat, eternal, eternality. So if our nature is eternality, if what we by our nature want to experience is eternal time or the internal influence of everything, which means eternal relationship, eternal pleasure, eternal service, eternal everything. And if that type of living entity, that natured living entity who's eternally, who sit, is placed under the influence of destructive time, it is very unsettling. That's why you find all the experiences in this material world give so much distress deep within the living entity's heart. Because he's in an environment, Prabhupada writes very beautifully in Sri Shopanishad, where if you do not surrender to the Supreme Lord, you will experience all types of incompatible states. Why? Because you are in an environment that is not compatible to your nature. So if you're in an environment that's not compatible to your nature, then no matter what you do, you're going to experience the incompatibility of that existence. It's just common sense. So if you don't want any suffering, it's not about changing your situation in material world. I don't like South Africa, go to another place. You could go to another country, it's going to be the same. Okay, I don't like Earth planet, let me go to heavenly planets. It's going to be the same. It's going to end up frustrating. Birth, death, disease, or old age, you will not escape, because that's the nature of this material world. Dukhalayam, Ashwashatam. It's full of misery and temporary. We need to go to an environment that's conducive to our nature. That environment is Sanatana. That environment is eternal. That environment is the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world, Prabhupada says, devastating time which controls even the celestial demigods by its manifestation of past, present, future does not act on the transcendental plane. That transcendental plane is a spiritual world. If I can situate myself on the spiritual plane, I automatically become free from devastating time. Then Prabhupada continues. The influence of time is exhibited by the symptoms of birth, death, old age, and disease. And these four principles of material conditions are present everywhere in any part of material cosmos up to the planet of Brahmaloka, where the duration of life of the inhabitants appear to us to be fabulous. So now, Prabhupada is relating time to its symptoms. We know that time destroys. Okay, so what are the symptoms? What's the visible symptoms around me that proves that time is destructive? That time is not what I want. That this destructive form of time is not compatible to me. The symptoms is birth, death, disease, and old age. So everybody is plagued by these four problems. And if we can solve these four problems, then I've solved the greatest problem of life. I'll be happy. Okay, what is what is causing these four problems? Well, what's causing these four problems is understanding that these are symptoms. Symptoms of what? Symptoms of the influence of time. And time in the material world is the all-devouring or the all-destructive potency. Okay? So this all-destructive potency, where does it cease to exist? Its destructive nature on the transcendental plane. So as long as I'm in the material plane, the symptoms are going to be visible. I need to get to the transcendental plane, then I'm free. So Prabhupada is diagnosing, giving us, very, very clear understanding of the influence of time and how we can become free. We can do everything in our power, thinking, in action, no matter what we do within this material creation, as long as material creation is controlled by time, we're going to get these symptoms. You go to a doctor. The doctor says, oh, you got a headache. Okay, no problem. Here's medication. The doctor is treating the symptom, not the cause. He has treated your headache. That is a symptom. And what's going to happen? The medication that he has given you, you take that, and guess what's happened to your headache? It goes away. For how long? For a short while. And what happens? The headache comes back again. Why does the headache come back again? Because you did not cure the root cause. Just like high blood sugar, low blood sugar, high blood pressure, low blood pressure. What are these? Symptoms. So the doctor, all the doctor is doing is the doctor is dealing with symptoms. And they love to treat symptoms so that you can become a recurring customer. But what we want to do is deal with the root cause. So what is Prabhupada giving us? He's not giving us any solution dealing with the symptoms. Because if you deal with the symptoms in all different forms and shapes and methods and methodologies and processes, you're going to stay in the material world. Prabhupada is giving us the process of dealing with the cause. And what is the cause? Devastating time. That is the cause. So we need to deal with that cause, the influence of time. Once you deal with the influence of time, everything else becomes resolved. Because the influence of time, as Prabhupada says, does not act only on the transcendental plane. Every other plane, it'll act. On the sensual plane, it'll act. In the material plane, it'll act. On the intellectual plane, it'll act. In any heavenly plane, it'll act. So, goal. What is my goal? My goal is transcendental plane. How do I get to that transcendental plane? Prabhupada then continues. Insurmountable time even brings about death of Brahma. So what to speak of other demigods like Indra, Chandra, Surya, Vayu, and Varuna? The astronomical influence directed by the demigods over mundane creatures is also conspicuous by its absence. Meaning, like Prabhupada also would say, this is also conspicuous by its absence in the spiritual. Time is conspicuous by its absence, meaning that time is there, but its influence is not visible. The demigods, they live such long lifespans, like inconceivable. They're like Brahma. He lives, his lifespan is 100 years, but he lives for 432 billion years, got it right, of our lifespan. So long it's inconceivable, it's like practically eternal. So in material existence, the living entities are afraid of satanic influence. But for devotee on the transcendental plane, there is no such fear at all. So now it's interesting how Prabhupada, he's talking about, and I thought this was like an interesting point that Prabhupada is making here. He's talking about the demigods. He's talking about the power of time, and that even the demigods are influenced by time, or to talk about others. And then Prabhupada brings it down. In the material existence, the living entity is afraid of satanic influence. But for devotee on the transcendental planes, there's no such fear at all. So whether it is heavenly pleasures, heavenly duration of time, or whether it's the most destructive, demonic influence of satanic influence in the material world. So whether you're in heaven or whether you're in hell or in between, the devotee does not fear. Why? Because he tries to situate himself on the transcendental. And on that plane, there's no fear. So now we know which plane we want to go. Transcendental plane. Okay, let's see what Prabhupada says next. The living entities change their material bodies in different shapes and forms under the influence of different modes of material nature. But in the transcendental state, the devotee is gunatita, or above the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So this transcendental plane is above the three modes of material nature. Thus, the false ego of I am the Lord of all I survey does not arise there. Now just take this specific line and bring it down to every activity that you perform. and see whether you have this type of abhiman, this type of ego in what you do. Do you think, even if it's an inch in your activities, in your daily activities, even in your devotional practice, do you think you the Lord of all I survey? I am in control. I am the enjoyer. I am doing things. I am the boss. As long as this, I am the Lord, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, is existing, it means I am not transcendently situated. Because on the transcendental plane, this does not exist. In the material world, the false ego of the living being trying to lord it over material nature is something like the moths falling into a blazing fire. The moth is captivated by the glaring beauty of fire. And when he comes to enjoy it, the blazing fire consumes him. In the transcendental state, the living entity is pure in his consciousness. And as such, he has no false ego to lord it over material nature. So are we exploiting the resources which are given to us for sense pleasure? This is what it means to lord it over material nature. So just think in one's own activities. Am I enjoying separately from Krishna? Do I have tendencies to enjoy separately from Krishna? Even in devotional service. Because in devotional service, I can enjoy, for example, pratishta, fame, adoration, glory, followers. So I can enjoy, exploit. So do I have that exploitative mentality? And where do I have that? Where does it manifest? Where does it present itself? And if we look deep, we will see we have those tendencies. Now, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, but you need to be aware of these tendencies. And just so once you're aware, now the intelligence guided by Prabhupada's instructions should know when these tendencies manifest. And when they manifest, highlight, yes, see, this is Maya. This is not good for your devotion practice. This will derail you. So be careful. Focus on Krishna. Focus on giving pleasure to Krishna. So in this way, you are aware and not just being naive and thinking that, no, I'm all okay, I'm good. No. Once we are aware of the obstacle, where it is, to what degree it's manifesting, to what degree I exploit Krishna's resources, then I try to keep focus on devotional service. And when I try to focus on devotional service, at the same time, in the back of my mind, aware of this exploitative mentality in whatever proportion, in whatever degree, in whatever way it comes, I can keep it on the back burner by engaging devotional service. And what I will notice is it's slowly losing its hold on me. It's slowly becoming weaker and weaker and weaker because I'm engaging in devotional service. Rather, in his pure consciousness directs him, his pure consciousness directs him to surrender unto the Supreme Lord. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, Vasudeva Sarvam iti Samahatma Sudurlabha. All this indicates that in the transcendental state, there is neither material creation nor the causal ocean for material nature. So on the transcendental state in devotional service, we don't have influence of time. We don't have the influence of the modes. We don't have the influence of false ego. We don't have the propensity of I am the enjoyer, I'm the controller. We simply accept I am the servant of Krishna. In fact, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am the servant of 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 Krishna. That is the safest transcendental position. The above mentioned state of affairs is factual on the transcendental plane, but it is factually revealed in a transcendentalist knowledge of the advanced state of pure consciousness. Such transcendentalists are of two types, namely the impersonalists and the devotees. For the impersonalists, the ultimate goal or destination is Brahma Jyoti of the spiritual sky. But for the devotee, the ultimate goal is Vaikuntha planets. The devotees experience the above mentioned state of affairs by attainment of the spiritual forms for activity in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. But the impersonalist, because of his neglecting the association of the Lord, does not develop a spiritual body for spiritual activity, but remains a spiritual spark only, merged in the effulgent spiritual rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is the fully fledged form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, but the formless Brahma Jyoti is simply eternity and knowledge. So in the Brahma Jyoti, because it's the form of eternity and knowledge, it does not have bliss. And the soul is Ananda Vyasat. The soul, just like Krishna, is pleasure seeking. So when you get to Brahman, you experience the initial pleasure of Brahmananda. But that state is not permanent. Why? Because there's no bliss. Bliss comes from the personal association and service of the Lord. And because that association is not present in Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti, after a while, you feel unsettled. Something's missing. So just like in the material world, people practice, and they engage in different activities, and even the wealthiest, and they come to some state, in their life, and something's missing. Well, even the impersonalists experience that. Something's missing. May take a long time, but after a while, something's missing. Now, when something's missing, when they feel something's missing, they can't go up. When you experience like something's missing, means you are agitated. When that agitation comes, you fall down. And therefore, even those who are merged in Brahma Jyoti, they will come back to the material world. If one is an impersonalist merged in Brahman, if he's fortunate enough to get the association of pure devotees that reveal to them this process and what's going to happen, and give them the solution of devotional service, pure transcendental devotional service to the lotus feet of Krishna, they can then move up. Example, the four Kumaras. Example, Sukadev Goswami. Otherwise, without the pure association, they will fall down. Therefore, even merging into Brahman is not sought for by the pure devotees of the Lord. The Vaikuntha planets are also forms of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. And therefore, the devotees of the Lord who are admitted into the abode of the Lord also get bodies of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. As such, there is no difference between one and another. The Lord's abode, name, fame, entourage, etc., of the same transcendental quality, and how this transcendental while it differs from the material world, is explained herewith in this verse. In the Bhagavad Gita, 3 principal subjects have been explained by Lord Krishna, namely Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. But one can reach the Vaikuntha planets by the practice of Bhakti Yoga only. See, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, these processes can take you higher, but not perfect, or not to the perfect, not to the highest perfection of spiritual life. Just like different grades of mathematics can take you higher. So similarly, these processes can take you higher, but you have to come to the stage of Bhakti Yoga. The other two are incompetent in helping one reach the Vaikuntha planets, Vaikuntha lokas. Although they can, however, conveniently take one to the effulgent Brahma Jyoti as described above. So if you want to go back to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, where you engage in devotional service, where you experience bliss, the only solution is devotional service. Practical devotional service. All other processes lower than devotional service, lower than Bhakti Yoga, tinged with jnana and karma of different shades, and yoga, different shades. They can take you, when perfected, right up to Brahma Jyoti. And because, as we mentioned, there is no service, well, then that is also still temporary. 18. Param padam Vaishnavam amanantidat yanneti netityat tyatat utshish rikshava vishrajya douratmyam ananya saurida ridopago yarha padam pade pade. The transcendentalists desire to avoid everything godless, for they know that the supreme situation in which everything is related with the Supreme Lord, for they know that the supreme situation in which everything is related with the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore, a pure devotee who is in absolute harmony with the Lord does not create perplexities, but worships the lotus feet of the Lord at every moment, taking them into his heart. In Bhagavad Gita, Madhyama, my abode, is mentioned several times. According to the version of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, there exists the unlimited spiritual sky wherein the planets are called Vaikunthas, or the abodes of the Personality of Godhead. So note, it's not one planet that's called Vaikuntha. No, Vaikunthas. In fact, unlimited Vaikunthas. So there is variegated spiritual planets, not just one. In that sky, which is far, far beyond material sky and its sevenfold coverings, there is no need of the sun or the moon, nor is there necessity of electricity for illumination, because the planets are self-illuminating and more brilliant than the material sun. Pure devotees of the Lord are absolutely in harmony with the personality of Godhead, or in other words, they always think of the Lord as their only dependable friend and well-wisher. They always think of the Lord as their only dependable friend and well-wisher. They do not care for any mundane creature up to the status of Brahma, the Lord of the universe. Only they can definitely have a clear vision of the Vaikuntha planets. So we see having a personal relationship with Krishna is a must. And that relationship is dependable. I mean, I can depend on Krishna. Why? Because he's omnipotent. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. So there will always be auspiciousness. In fact, not just auspiciousness. Nectar Devotion says all auspiciousness. So when one develops a relationship with Krishna, one will always find all auspiciousness. Even on the road where one is beginning to practice Krishna consciousness, there will be bumps. Because you haven't come out of the three modes of material nature. You haven't come out of the influence of time. You're still in the material world. So you're going to experience the bumps of where you are. But the fact that you are surrendering to the Supreme Lord, the fact that you are developing a relationship with the Supreme Lord, that begins to shield you more and more on the plane of your consciousness, on the plane of the mind. It gives you protection and shelter to endure the journey. Because you are in the ocean of material existence. Just like if you're on the shore, then you are grounded. You are not wobbling. Now you get onto the boat, onto the ship. And now you're going into the ocean. You're going to see, you're going to move to and fro. It's going to be very unsteady. And you may even get some of the water coming onto the deck. But you don't jump into the ocean. You know that you want to stay on the deck until you reach the opposite side. So you're going through the turmoil, you're going through the to and fro of the ocean, influence of the ocean, and even maybe getting wet. But because you're staying on the boat of Krishna consciousness, you have the security, you have the shelter of knowing that I am safe, even though I'm experiencing the turmoil of the ocean. I'm still more safe on the deck than in the ocean. So being in the material world and having Krishna consciousness gives us that security, that gives us that assurance, gives us that protection that I am still safe in Krishna consciousness, better than that person who has no Krishna consciousness at all. I may go through some turmoil, I may go through some trauma, I may go through some negative experiences because of the influence of time, but I keep enduring on the path of Krishna consciousness, never giving it up. Why? Because I have not completely perfected my relationship with Krishna. Therefore, because I have not perfected my relationship with Krishna, I have not completely revived my pure devotion to Krishna. I'm not a pure lover of Krishna. I will go through that experience of material nature. Krishna, being my best friend and well-wisher, may even give me a token reaction due to his kind mercy. In this way, I go through the journey. Now, when you have a challenging journey, a challenging trip, when you have friends who are of the similar mindset on the same journey, instead of going alone on this journey and experiencing its trials and tribulations until you hit the destination alone, if you now have like-minded colleagues, like-minded practitioners, like-minded friends, now with them, you share the pains and pleasures of the journey. In fact, what happens now is collectively the uncomfortable challenges of the journey is now shared amongst the team, because they can now support you and console you and give you encouragement. And in this way, when you're encouraging each other, the journey now becomes less stressful, becomes more pleasant, and the Negative experiences becomes more dispersed because now there's a collective support that takes us through the journey. And that is why association is very powerful on the journey to perfecting one's Krishna consciousness. Such pure devotees, being perfectly directed by the Supreme Lord, do not create an artificial perplexity in the matter of transcendental understanding by wasting time in discussing what is Brahman and what is non-Brahman or Maya. Nor do they falsely think of themselves as one with the Lord, or argue that there is no existence of the Lord separately, or that there is no God at all, or that the living being are themselves God, or that when God incarnates himself, he assumes a material body. Nor do they concern themselves with many obscure speculative theories, which are in actuality so many stumbling blocks on the path of transcendental understanding. Apart from the class of impersonals or non-devotees, there are also classes who pose themselves as a devotee of the Lord, but at heart maintain the idea of salvation by becoming one with the impersonal Brahman. They wrongly manufacture their own ways of devotional service by open debauchery and mislead others who are simpletons or debauchees like themselves. This paragraph is revealing to us that at a certain stage of advancement, you do not bother your consciousness on the lower aspects of obstacles. Just like at a certain level, you don't start to ask the question, does God really exist? I'm sure none of us here bother about that question. Does God really exist? Does Krishna really exist? No. Why? Because I've gone past that. I have firm faith that Krishna exists. Or at least I have faith that Krishna exists. It's not a question. It's not a discussion point. Am I God? Am I not God? There's no discussion point. I've already gone through past that. So this also implies that I'm advancing. Whereas you'll see there are souls who are still in this cloud. They haven't gone past that. And is that bad? No, it's just that that's where they are. Okay, so we've passed the stage. Now we are at a higher level where we may start hearing about the pastimes of Krishna, engaging in devotional service. And we talk about how to improve our service, how to stay fixed, how not to get derailed, how to help spread the mission, how to stay Krishna conscious. And then we'll eventually even transcend that and go higher and be more absorbed in Krishna's pastimes, constantly thinking of Krishna, experiencing the separation of Krishna, getting glimpse of Krishna, and then eventually perfecting our life where we meet Krishna face to face. So we moving through different stages of advancement. But we do not delve into these lower subjects, one, because we already realized, and we also do not entertain that when we have advanced. All these non-devotees and debauchees are, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti, duratmas, or crooked souls in the dress of the Mahatmas, or great souls. Such non-devotees and debauchees are completely excluded from the list of transcendentalists by the presentation of this particular verse by Sukadeva Goswami. Here we also need to be warned that they can be debauchees and non-devotees, duratmas, crooked souls, even dressed as Mahatmas. Implication. Prabhupada made few points that even in our Krishna conscious movement, there are those who are dressed as great souls, dressed as Mahatmas, dressed as devotees, but their consciousness is Duratma. Externally, they look like devotees. Internally, Duratma, crooked souls. Duratma means those who have taken shelter of the material energy. Durashraya. They have not surrendered and taken shelter of Krishna completely. So we should not just take everyone on the face value of their dress. That's why Srila Prabhupada told Hari Sauri Prabhu that he should stay with him for 24 hours a day. For months, Hari Sauri Prabhu did that. Why? Because if you stay with someone 24 hours a day, literally 24 hours a day, then you can understand what they do, what they don't do, understand their activities, understand their desires, understand what's really inside, because what's inside will come out sometime during the day, during the night. Can't hide. So Srila Prabhupada gave him that instruction, so he stayed. The only time he wasn't with Srila Prabhupada was when he was sleeping. Otherwise, he was 24 hours with Prabhupada. And then what he said, well, Prabhupada was a walking Bhagavata. Because you could see 24 hours a day, the only time that he was, when he wasn't with Srila Prabhupada, he was sleeping. And otherwise, he could see every action of Prabhupada was in line with the Bhagavata. So we shouldn't naively just think that every person in the Hare Krishna movement who is dressed like a devotee is following like a devotee. The intention may be totally different. Internally, they may be crooked, and therefore we always want to gauge by their actions over a long time or long duration. So the Vaikuntha planets are factually the supreme residential places called Parampadam. The impersonal Brahma Jyoti is also called Parampadam due to its being the rays of the Vaikuntha planets. As the sun rays are the rays of the sun. In the Bhagavad Gita 14:27, it is clearly said that the impersonal Brahma Jyoti rests on the person of the Lord. And because everything rests on Brahma Jyoti directly and indirectly, everything is generated from the Lord. Everything rests on him. And after annihilation, everything is merged in him only. Therefore, nothing is independent of him. A pure devotee of the Lord no longer wastes valuable time discriminating Brahman from non-Brahman, because he knows perfectly well that the Lord Para-Brahman, by his Brahman energy, is interwoven into everything, and thus everything is looked upon by a devotee as the property of the Lord. So this is the consciousness that becomes developed. As one progresses more and more in Krishna consciousness, one begins to see everything as the property of the Lord. Your body as the property of the Lord. You as the property of the Lord. Your family as the property of the Lord. Your wealth as the property of the Lord. All your assets as the property of the Lord. All the resources, all the energies around you as the property of the Lord. And because it's a property of the Lord, well, who should enjoy it? The property of the person, or the proprietor. So in this way, a devotee always engages all his resources, all the energies in the service of the Lord. The devotee tries to engage everything in his service and does not create perplexity by falsely lording it over the creation of the Lord. He is so faithful that he engages himself as well as everything else in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This faithfulness we can see is exemplified, is amplified, is personified by Srila Prabhupada. He engaged everything in service of the Lord. Never exploited the resources of the Lord. So Prabhupada is the perfect example. In everything, the devotee sees the Lord, and he sees everything in the Lord. The specific disturbances created by the Duratma, or crooked soul, is due to his maintaining that transcendental form of the Lord is something material. So what the Duratmas will do, they will create a disturbance. So we should be aware that we can have that disturbance in spiritual life and Krishna consciousness. At the same time, as we mentioned, on this journey, we will feel the topple, we will feel the to and fro, we will feel the disturbance, we will feel the ocean, the modes of material nature, we will feel the disturbance of Duratmas. But we should always see the good example, the exemplary example of Srila Prabhupada, and use Prabhupada as the benchmark. Use Prabhupada as the example. Use Prabhupada as our inspiration. Use Prabhupada as our guide. Use Prabhupada as our shelter. And in this way, we will be able to overcome any minor bumps. That's all. Just a little minor bump. No big deal. Prabhupada's there. Prabhupada's always there. So in that way, just like the North Star ain't going anywhere. And somebody in the ocean, he may get lost. He may lose, the compass may malfunction. There may be so many obstacles, but he just has to look in the sky and look at the North Star, and immediately he'll be able to get direction. So for us, our star, North Star, is Srila Prabhupada. 19. Itam munis tu paramed vevastito vignana drigvirya suranditas tashaya swaparshni napidya budam tato nilam stane shusat suna me yajjita klama. By the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heels of one's foot, and by lifting the life air from one place to another in the 6 primary places. Purport. There are many Duratmas who claim to have realized themselves as Brahman and Paramatma as Brahman, and yet they are unable to conquer material desires. In Bhagavad Gita 1854, it is clearly explained that an absolutely self-realized soul becomes completely aloof from all material desires. So now Prabhupada is giving a very clear definition of a pure devotee. Of a Mahatma. You got Duratma and you got Mahatma. Mahatma, completely free of all material desires. A Duratma, no. So if somebody is posing as a Mahatma and has material desires, then he's a Duratma. Material desires are based on the false ego of the living being and are exhibited by his childish and useless activities to conquer the laws of material nature and by his desire to lord it over the resources of the 5 elements. With such a mentality, one is led to believe in the strength of material science with its discovery of atomic energy and space travel by mechanical vehicles. And by such a tiny advancement in material science, the false egoistic tries to challenge even the strength of the Supreme Lord, who can finish all man's tiny endeavors in less than a second. The well-situated self, Brahman realized soul, perfectly understands that the Supreme Brahman, or the personality of Godhead, is all-powerful Vasudeva, and that he, the self-realized living being, is part and parcel of the Supreme. So you'll see even the yogi who's on this path of mechanical perfection, even he understands the truth that is there also in Krishna consciousness. And you'll see the similarities there in all the processes, because that is the truth. That's the reality. A yogi cannot perfect his life if he thinks he's all in all. A bona fide yogi will always come to this conclusion that the Supreme Lord is all powerful and I'm part and parcel. And therefore, he becomes submissive. As soon as one thinks I'm the supreme, I'm the controller, I'm perfect, then Krishna's material energy will teach him. As Prabhupada says, in less than a second, everything can be destroyed. We see how, no matter how huge, wonderful cities you create, if a tsunami comes, if material energy shows its face, totally destructive, totally destructive. And that's just a teeny power of Lord's energy. What to talk about if the material energy has to show full force? There is no power in material creation that can face Krishna's energy. Krishna already made it very clear that this material energy is very difficult to overcome. She's insurmountable. So only by surrendering to Krishna can we be protected and sheltered. As such, his constitutional position is to cooperate with him in all respects in the transcendental relation of served and the servitor. So this is the attitude, this is the consciousness that one gets. In his constitutional position, he cooperates with Krishna in all respects, as servant and master. Such a cerebralized soul ceases to exhibit his useless activities of attempting to lord it over material nature. Being scientifically well informed, he fully engages himself in faithful devotion to the Lord. So it's not just theory. There's practical realization. And what probably is, clearly defining here, we all, to some degree or other, have different realizations of this truth. And it'll become more and more scientifically verified as we continue. It just builds, yes, it just builds. The faith just intensifies and solidifies and increases until one is fully engaged in faithful devotion to the Lord. So the key is keep going. The expert yogi who has thoroughly practiced the control of life air by prescribed methods of the yoga system is advised to quit the body as follows. So now Prabhupada is describing the actual process that the advanced yogi goes through. He should plug the evacuating hole with the heel of the foot so that he doesn't leave from there. Then progressively move the life air on and on to the 6 places. Don't ask me how that's done, but it's done. Okay? The navel, the abdomen, the heart, the chest, the palate, the eyebrows, and cerebral throat. But controlling the life air by the prescribed yogic process is mechanical. And this practice is more or less a physical endeavor for spiritual perfection. The mechanical process. For us, we achieve the same outcome by chanting, dancing, and feasting, engaging Krishna consciousness. In the olden days, such practice was very common for the transcendentalists. For the mode of life and character in those days were favorable. But in the modern days, when the influence of the Kali age is so disturbing, practically everyone is untrained in this art of bodily exercise. Practically everyone is untrained. So you may get one or two in this vast material planet, but they're very, very rare. Concentration of the mind is more easily attained in these days by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Results are more effective than those derived from the inner exercise of the life. So by chanting the holy name, we are getting the same benefit and more that these advanced yogis were using, or applying the mechanical process previously. 20. Nabhyam stita hridaya diro ripyo tasmad udana gatyo rashistam nanyen muni tato nusandhyana diyamana manasvi swatalu mulam sanakher nayeta. A meditative devotee should slowly push up the life air from the navel to the heart, and from there to the chest, and from there to the root of the palate. He should search out the proper places with intelligence. There are 6 circles of the movement of the life air, and the intelligent Bhakti yogi should search out these places with intelligence and in a meditative mood. Among these mentioned above is the Swadhisthana chakra, or the powerhouse of the life airs. And above this, just below the abdomen and navel, is the Manipura chakra, where the meditative devotee searches out the next highest circle of life air. He reaches the Anahata chakra in the heart, and further up, when the life air is placed at the root of the palate, he reaches the Vishuddha chakra. So the different energy centers are there, and the yogis who study this and understand the life airs and the energy centers, the whole idea is they're moving the life force, which is generally said to be also like a serpent, like the Kundali, from the lower base. They're moving this life force up, right up to the head. 21. Tasmad Bruvo Antaram Unatyata Niruda Saptayaton no Napeksha Shtitva Muhurtardan Anukat Akunta Drishtir Nir Vidya Murdan Vrishtat Paramgata. Thereafter, the Bhakti yogi should push the life air up between the eyebrows, and then blocking the 7 outlets of the air, the life air, he should maintain his aim for going back home, back to Godhead. If he is completely free from all desires for material enjoyment, he should reach the cerebral hole and give up his material connections, having gone to the Supreme. The process of giving up all material connections and returning home back to Godhead, Supreme, is recommended here. The condition is that one should be completely freed from desire for material enjoyment. So whether you using a mechanical process, whether it's Bhakti Yoga, any other process, the bottom line is you need to be free from all desire for material exploitation. There are different grades of material enjoyments in respect to duration of life and sensual gratification. The highest plane of sensual enjoyment for the longest period of life is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9:20. All are but material enjoyments, and one should be thoroughly convinced that he has no need of such a long duration of life, even in the Brahma Loka planet. He must return home, back to Godhead, and must not be attracted by any amount of material facilities. In Bhagavad Gita 2:59, it is said that this sort of material detachment is possible to attain when one is acquainted with the supreme association of life. param drishtva nivartate. One cannot be freed from material attraction unless he has complete understanding of the nature of spiritual life. So Prabhupada is giving us a secret formula to keep advancing. We need to become free from material desires. But we already said that the soul can only desire. So how can I stop desiring materially and get spiritual desires? I need taste. How do I get the taste? Param drishtani vartate. So I need taste in spiritual life. By engaging in devotional service, by engaging nicely in devotional service, I get taste. And by spiritual taste, I'm able to focus my desires more on spirit than matter, more in Krishna consciousness than material consciousness. And in this way, slowly, I begin to mold my desire more and more and more. So it is not a dry process. It is a very practical process where you are developing and gaining a higher taste. You are experiencing it. It's not a mental concoction. You're feeling it. You're getting the taste. And sometimes Krishna may give more taste than, in different times of one's life than other times. It's described that in the beginning, Krishna may give so much taste and then he pulls the taste away. Because he wants you to become serious at the practice to apply the process. The propaganda by a certain class of impersonalists that spiritual life is void of all varieties, dangerous propaganda to mislead the living being into becoming more and more attracted by material enjoyments. As such, persons with a poor fund of knowledge cannot have any conception of Param, the Supreme. They try to stick to the varieties of material enjoyments, although they may flatter themselves as being Brahman realized souls. Such less intelligent persons cannot have any conceptions of the Param, as mentioned in this verse, and therefore they cannot reach the Supreme. So you can't shortcut, you can't cheat the process. It is very scientific. You need to go through the stages of purification. You need to realize the stages of purification, and you need to advance to higher levels of purification. The devotees have full knowledge of the spiritual world, the personality of Godhead, and its transcendental association in unlimited spiritual planets called Vaikuntha Lokas. Herein, Akunta, Drishta is mentioned. Akunta and Vaikuntha convey the same import. And only one who has his aim fixed upon the spiritual world and personal association with Godhead can give up his material connections even while living in this material world. This Param and Param Dhamma mentioned in several places in Bhagavad Gita are one and the same thing. One who goes to the Param Dham does not return to the material world. This freedom is not possible even by reaching the topmost loka of the material world. The life air passes through 7 openings, namely 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. Generally passes through the mouth at the time of an ordinary man's death. But the yogi, as above mentioned, who controls life air in his own way, generally releases the life air by punctuating the cerebral hole in the head. The yogi therefore blocks up all the above mentioned 7 openings so that the life air will naturally burst forth through the cerebral hole. This is the sure sign of a great devotee's leaving the material connection. Thus ends this chapter, or this section of verses where Sukadeva Goswami has described how an advanced yogi leaves this world in a mechanical way by controlling his life airs, taking his life airs through the different chakras, right up to the top, and leaving at the same time having the qualification, the prerequisite of going back home, free from material desires, having no false ego, having no propensity lorded over material nature, completely control of the mind, etc. These prerequisites are there in every process. Without them, one cannot perfect one's life. The process of bhakti yoga, the process of Krishna consciousness is far, far easier for the residents of Kali Yuga, simply taking shelter of the holy name, chanting Hare Krishna, dancing in kirtan, taking Krishna Prasad, serving the mission, or broadcasting the same process. And we can then have the same benefit that these advanced yogis have practiced in the previous ages and achieved perfection. So for Kali Yuga souls, there is a simpler process because we are far disqualified to practice the advanced process of mechanical Stanga Yoga to achieve perfection. At the same time, the process of Krishna consciousness is far more blissful. Because why? It is connected to the personal form of Krishna. And therefore, it's not dry. It's not mechanical. We can experience a taste as we're progressing on this path of Bhakti Yoga. Vantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande Hari Hari Bol. Are there any questions or comments anyone has? You can type or you can unmute and let us know. Any realizations, any feedback? We'll just give a minute or two if there's anyone typing. Any corrections? Ram Kikar says, desire is the cause of things, being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study, then he can cut off his relation with it. Yes, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, Lord Krishna is describing this tree. Many chapters, the Lord is describing this upside down banyan tree. And the Lord is describing different aspects of it. And desire is the base. Now we need to be able to cut. And how do we cut? By the blissful process of Krishna consciousness. And the blissful purports of Srila Prabhupada. The blissful chanting of Hare Krishna. The blissful service of the deities. The blissful mission of Krishna consciousness. Blissful association of devotees. Blissful kirtan of the devotees. In this way, just by being in these powerful processes, we can cut away all our attachments and purify our desire. Hemavati says, thank you very much for mind-blowing class, Prabhu. We are grateful to you for your time and explaining so nicely to us. Hearing all this makes us think, wow, Srila Prabhupada gave us so much is inconceivable. Yes. All credit goes to Srila Prabhupada for painstakingly giving the details. Prabhupada could have easily said, okay, this verse is talking about this next. This verse is talking about this next. This verse is talking about this next. But see, Prabhupada is taking so much time, so much energy, trying to elaborate, trying to explain, trying to guide, trying to warn, like a mother taking care of its child with full attention. And the mother can only take care of the child with full attention and detail when there's love. So Prabhupada, due to that love for all the living entities, is able to do this. And where is that love coming from? Is because Prabhupada loves Krishna. And when you love Krishna, you love all of Krishna's part and parcels. And with that love, Prabhupada is giving this guidance, so much detail. So yes, it's astounding, mind-boggling. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, thanks for the wonderful class. Nice pastime about Hari Sori staying with Srila Prabhupada and confirming what we know. Yes. Discussing same points with family we visited earlier today who had some doubts and questions. they use the same term, North Star, as you did in the class, referring to Srila Prabhupada being our guaranteed guide and shelter and compass in all matters. They were happy to understand, though a little better, and move forward on the path. Yes. We will always have turmoil and turbulence in this world. It's the nature of the material world. Prabhupada told Kaushalya, because Mother Kaushalya, Prabhupada's disciple, she went to Prabhupada complaining, so much turbulence here, so much challenges here in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said, yeah, you're looking for a smooth sailing in a turbulent ocean. But you are on the deck of Krishna consciousness, on the boat and the ship of Krishna consciousness. And the captain of the ship is Prabhupada. So as long as Prabhupada is our captain, we have nothing to fear. Don't fear when I'm here. That is applicable to Srila Prabhupada as the Acharya. As long as Prabhupada is our captain, we don't need to fear. Because he's no ordinary captain. He's no ordinary North Star. Amongst all the North Stars, Prabhupada is the special North Star, Senapati Bhakta. So that itself is even more assuring. Because yes, there are many North Stars, there are many great Acharyas. We have many great Acharyas in our line. What to talk about in other Sampradayas? There are many great Acharyas. So there are many North Stars. But amongst all the North Stars, we have a very special North Star and a relationship with that North Star, Srila Prabhupada. Why? Because you in the Hare Krishna movement, no. Because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said himself, Mora Senapati Bhakta. I will be sending my Senapati Bhakta, my chief commander. So in that sense, we are connected to the chief commander. There are many commanders. There are many soldiers. But there's a chief commander, only one chief commander, that's Prabhupada. So in that way, not that we should condemn and criticize other commanders, but for our faith and our conviction and our allegiance to Prabhupada, we should be convinced we're in the right place. And therefore we can stop searching. Stop your searching. Now embrace the process and the knowledge that Prabhupada has shared. In this way, build your foundation to grow and move forward, to perfect. And as Prabhupada says, we will be again back in the spiritual world. So let us continue dedicating our lives, resources in the service of Prabhupada, helping each other, and this way return back to the eternal shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktavrinda ki jai, Nitai Gopramnande Hari Hari Bo. Okay, Bafana Prabhu just sent another one. Let's see. I'm interested in understanding the connection with one striving with their anartas and while chanting, trying to sway from committing offenses, in particular one, or committing sins on the strength of the holy name. Yes. How one navigates keeping on chanting, yet anartha is fighting its way. At times it wins, and you're chanting, yet you have no intention to commit such offense in the anartha. How is this reconciled? When one has to do what one has to do as, what one have to do as they are attracted by the holy name. Yes. So, committing sinful acts on the strength of the holy name is related to intentional offense, where you say, I'm going to commit an offense, I'm going to commit a sin, and then I'll just chant and then I'll get free. So that is detrimental. Now, when you're aware of your narratives, your weaknesses, and you know that the process is chanting, so now you chant Hare Krishna, and these anarthas at different times, different situations overtake you and allow you to deviate. One is you always come back. So you always come back to the path of Krishna consciousness. But when you come back to the path, you are coming back with regret. Why am I falling prey to this weakness? I need to be more stronger. So then you're coming with repentance, but greater conviction to try to overcome. At the same time, you can try to pray to Krishna, my Lord, you know my weakness. You know that this is my weakness. Please help me overcome. By engaging more seriously in devotional service, practical devotional service with the senses, we can purify the anartha. So it's not and it's not a dead end when you succumb to your weakness. It's normal and natural as we go through the process of anartha nivriti. And you'll know that you're healthy. You'll know that you're on the healthy part of deviation when you deviate and you feel bad about it. When you deviate and you know you're deviating. When you deviate and you want to now really try to deal with this anartha. And in some cases, you try to make plans to address the anartha. Just like if somebody has a weakness for pornographic, right? Pornography, then just don't go to that sites. But the senses, the lust will pull you beyond your control and you fall prey to it. So then there's different ways to deal with that circumstance, both in a mechanical and oversight way. For 1 year, cut the internet. Right? That way, there'll be turmoil, but nowhere to go. See, so that's drastic, but there's practical ways. I gave that example, like when you have a weakness at night at 6 o'clock every Wednesday, just call your friend to take you to the temple. So you're addressing that anarthas. Every anartha, every weakness will be overcome by the process of devotional service. So you'll know that you are on the right path if there's repentance, and you always want to stay on the path. You feel bad. I need to be strong. Yes. And you're not fooling yourself. I have this weakness. I'm not a Mahabhagavad. I'm not a pure devotee. I have a long way to go. I am going to stick to this path and not give up. And pray. Pray to Lord Nityananda. Pray to Lord Chaitanya. Pray to Prabhupada. Pray to the holy name and keep chanting. So I hope, Bafana Prabhu, that shed a little light in terms of the anarthas and the psyche or the attitude that you have to at least know that it's not a problem. Yes, I did. Good. Yeah. So don't worry about the weakness. They are there. It's natural. We all have different tendencies that come up at different times in different situations. These are baggage. These baggages will be there. But the more I practice Krishna consciousness, the more the baggages will drop off. And therefore keep an oversight on it to see, is it getting weaker and weaker and weaker? In some cases, it may drop off in a week, in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, sometimes over lifetimes. But by practicing nicely, seriously, you'll overcome. And we pray to Krishna to give you the strength, and pray to the Bhagavatam to give you the strength to purify your anarthas so that you can become a wonderful, pure servant of Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari.